Okay, it's 5:04, and you know what, I don't have an agenda in front of me. But I've got one headed my way. Thank you. And we're gonna start our special selectmen's meeting. It's Friday, it's Monday, February 27th, 2023. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And really, there's really just one item on this agenda. We're working on the solar ordinance for Sangerville. And so before we start, I'll let Jody speak.
So I am recusing myself from any of this work that we're doing on the solar ordinance because I have a conflict of interest. So I'm going to actually get up and sit out here so that there's no confusion of where I belong. I'll just leave this here. And I do have a photo request for anything, just as a citizen, for any work that's being done on the solar ordinance.
So our goal is to try to get an ordinance prepared for the warrant. That's why we're doing these special meetings. You guys are working on one. We've been kind of doing some due diligence on one. We're trying to basically fast track this if we can. And ideally, the two parties or two groups are on the same page is the hope. So an ordinance that we have found that looks pretty thorough is one that's in Mechanic Falls, and I believe you guys all have copies of it. So if you, I don't know, do you have any thoughts about that? To get this started? Have you?
I would just say, I like the looks of the ordinance. Some of the language will probably require some legalese too. And it's a running theme through this that it makes reference to the land use ordinance and the town charter.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that stuff needs to be cleaned up.
Comprehensive plan.
Yep.
We have a town charter, we don't have a common plan, we do have a Sangerville minimum lot size ordinance which serves us as a land use ordinance, but it's not a land use ordinance per se. So I don't know what that's gonna pose legally for difficulties. Obviously, some of the wording's gonna be changed because we don't have that in place.
Correct. And just as a little background, I spoke to code enforcement in Mechanic Falls last week. Ryan Smith, I believe, nice guy. He gave me a little background on this ordinance. He told me the name of the law firm that they worked with to build this, and the attorney from that firm that helped them. Her name was Kristen Collins. It's a Pretty Flaherty. They have offices in Augusta, Portland, even in Connecticut, I think. I called Kristen today because I wanted to know if she and or the firm had capacity to help us with this I told her what our timeline was, and she said, no problem. They've done such a thorough job of this one that she didn't feel like it would be any problem. I told them we don't have a council style of government like Mechanic Falls does, and she seemed to totally understand that. So she said, I said, obviously this was just kind of a courtesy thing. I said, I don't have any authority to spend any money. Maybe after tonight's meeting I will, and she said, just to give you an idea, I don't expect this to cost you $1,000. So cost-wise, it's not crazy. I told her that she probably would be interacting with the town manager, Lorna. She might hear from Jerry or myself with questions, and she sounded great. So that part of it, I think I have no doubt that they could get it ready for us. I think our most pressing thing is the printing, more than the 7-day notices, we got all kinds of time for that.
Right.
Yeah,
Have they had any questions on this in the large year that they've had it?
yeah, in fact, there was a letter, one of the provisions they have that's kind of unique is an annual inspection. And there's been some pushback on that, but only just a letter. And they seem pretty confident that they're in good standing. But there has, a couple of the commercial firms are saying that's onerous. But that's beyond that.
But we need a code enforcement officer to be able to take a peek, make sure things are up to snuff.
Well, yeah, and these are huge facilities, these are multi-million-dollar facilities, so to ask for an inspection seems reasonable.
Right, okay, that's the only question. then.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly,
So
that's how I got into finding this one, was I read that article in the Portland Press Herald and it referenced it, and it didn't say any details about the ordinance, but it referenced a certain section in the ordinance.
Right.
And it did it a couple of times in that article, and after, it's like, I need to go read that. What's everybody worried about in their ordinance? So, and that's all it was.
Nothing.
No.
Really, so, good. Glad to hear it.
The one area that I'm a little personally concerned about is if you go to page 7, under the application fees, under home array, that's not like anything Sangerville's ever done for, that would be a private property.
Nah.
I think if we're gonna get pushback on this, it's gonna be because we start charging $250 for a private home
You're
sold.
scratching that anyway, can't we?
That's my thought.
Scratch.
Yep,
Okay.
scratch away.
Done over, done over with.
I mean, and there's really no comparison once you get to medium and large scale, so, it makes,
My only question though, is even on a homeowner, is there any responsibility or more responsibility gonna be put on the code enforcement as far as even on a homeowner scale to make sure it's installed properly? I mean, is code
this ordinance
enforcement?
doesn't have an inspection component for home.
Okay,
So there wouldn't be, so A, they're not gonna have to apply for a permit, and B, there's no annual inspection, so the rooftop or on your lawn, this would not affect that.
that's gonna be between the landowner and CMP to hook it up, or
Their
electrician,
company they're working with or
or whatever
whatever.
company.
And the same thing is true with the decommissioning costs, because they got more at stake because their home is on this property. And I think the whole formula is totally different. I mean, they're basically doing this to offset their meter. So, but that was one adjustment I think it looks like we're all agreeing that probably wouldn't fly too well. So,
I agree. Let the tax assessor assess them at their will and pleasure.
there is no
There's no
assessing.
tax.
That is,
On panels,
the panels are, our understanding, according to our assessor who met with us, he said under current legislation, it's as though these things aren't there. The municipality can't tax it.
reality, they are there.
Yeah, well,
You can't tax it.
But tax purposes, they're not,
no, for example, one of those projects in Mechanic Falls was $5 million.
right?
Mechanic Falls can't tax any of it. Now, if that was a
Just-
$5 million mall,
Just the property is unused property?
it's just, so the property doesn't have anything on it.
It's vacant lot.
And it's supposedly, they're about to do the same thing with the windmills. We were talking about this, but,
Because of the massive government subsidy.
well, it's because
involved.
yeah, exactly. It's just another form of subsidy. That's exactly right. But the concern is, like for Parkman, if their valuation drops, and it will, because they were getting a lot of money from that, that could affect us. Because that means our valuation would go up relative to them.
As far as the county level and the school,
Yeah.
our percentage of the county tax and our percentage of the school tax will go up.
Yeah, so if you had a 10-acre field that had, whatever, $2,000 worth of tax on it, when they put the solar panels in, the tax goes away?
No, you
No,
could,
It still taxes the property, right?
no, ironically, you
You can't
could,
tax the,
you're going up Route 7 past the veterinarian there, and there's a used propane fill station there. I don't know, that could be $1 million facility, I don't know. Dover gets to tax that. But if the same piece of land had solar panels, you get
can't tax the
nothing.
panels, but they still get the tax off the land.
The land, as though it's
They
empty.
just look at it as the land is bare.
They
Yep,
just haven't caught up to the times yet. Right?
well, it's a special carve out for green energy, is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
I just smell like propane in here.
I-
Everybody
somebody
smell
else-
like- is
I-
something leaking?
I smelled it when I came in. I feel my life is in danger.
Yeah, exactly.
We ain't got to worry about talking about the fire department anymore, if it burns down, so.
Yeah, but I don't wanna be
I
here
don't
when
know
it
what
goes.
is, what runs on propane here?
That stove?
The heat? Probably.
Yeah, they got propane stove.
The
It's
generator.
not horses, is it?
The other thing,
If you smell horses, that would be me.
the other thing that I mentioned to her, and this is just, because I was just kind of noodling this thing, is it might make sense for us to have a moratorium on the same warrant. In case this doesn't pass, we can then say, well, let us go back and work on it. In the meantime, please consider this moratorium. And at least Sangerville will have a chance at protection then.
Are we concerned that such a project would adversely affect the town? And or any proposed projects would adversely affect the town?
You mean commercial solar?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, without the proper ordinances, there's a lot of scenarios that you probably could draw that would not be positive,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so.
But I didn't know if there was an impending.
That's, when we started doing the research, it was amazing how many there were online. Everybody's scrambling now. It seems like it's moving,
The ordinances or the fields?
the fields are moving
Mostly
north.
both.
Both.
And those that weren't ready are all putting up moratoriums to try to get ready. The state's basic law is not very, what do I say, comprehensive. It doesn't even, like decommissioning, they don't even look at it until there's only 5 years left. I mean, by then, this whole thing could be upside down.
Yeah, but who knows where 5 years is? You're not gonna know until it's there.
Yeah, so
You're not
it's
gonna know
all,
until 20 years from now, when there's a bunch of these starting to fall off. Whether, is the number 15 years, is it 20, is it 25? I mean, we're hearing 2025, but that's not we're not there yet to know that.
that's why most of these ordinances are, they're
So how do you-
escrowing up front.
I don't understand how the thought process of backing up 5 years when you don't know the end date. I can see where you're gonna be caught pretty easy by doing that.
Another thing I noticed under the state language is their formula allows you to assume current recycle value on these pieces of equipment. So let's say a used up panel currently is worth $20 in recyclable value. That doesn't mean they're gonna be worth $20 20 years from now if these things are no longer viable. They could be a minus something, maybe, I don't know, minus 100, who knows what they're gonna be. So all of that really should be built into these upfront escrowed
Right.
costs.
It doesn't say anything about the, amount
The-
in this.
Yeah, the amount needs to be calculated by a professional ultimately, I would think, and then we're gonna, it says, this is on page 6.
Performance guarantee.
Yes, exactly. This is kind of unique too. Many of the ordinances I'm reading have a figure of 150%. That's kind of what,
I've seen 175.
yep. Which sounds like a lot, but something that you pay for today, 20 to 25 years from now, is likely to be more than 150% greater. So I think the 150, so this ordinance actually looks at this, I think, more thoroughly. It wants you to multiply the decommissioning over the anticipated life of the project, which will probably be a much larger number than 150%. Probably be closer to 3 or 4 or 500%.
500%.
Yeah,
This is the amount of financial guarantee shall account for anticipated increase
in decommissioning costs over the life of the system.
So, which is essentially, it's referencing inflation.
Right.
Yeah, but back to what you just said,
And that's-
if current market is $22 value on a panel,
So we have that.
and in the future, so if it costs you if you're gonna make $22 to recycle it today, what good is your 150%? If it's gonna cost you $100 a panel in the future to get rid of it.
Hence that.
It's
Correct.
Line helps cover that.
Right. And this ordinance isn't looking to accommodate any of the theoretical.
That's right.
If there were something, there were something. That would, the provider will get that money.
That's right.
It's not really a concern of the code enforcement in the town. So,
I noticed on page 6, section 5, 2 of the performance guarantee, that it says the letter of credit or other financial assurance acceptable to the planning board. What do we know about that?
well,
Well, that's another cleanup, that's,
the language, irrevocable letter of credit,
right.
it's gonna have to fall into one of those categories, a surety bond. Now, if it isn't one of those, the planning board is not gonna accept it.
Right.
Like a promissory note from, say, the company that is put, that wouldn't have much value, I would think not.
No.
But there are institutions that do surety bonds, that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. But apparently somebody else would be calculating that.
An engineer or someone qualified to determine what the
Yeah.
actual expense would be.
And they would provide proof of that to the planning board.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the extrapolation would take place of 25 years, what would that money be? Here's the amount that we need in surety.
To me, that's like we talked about the other night, that's where initially when you look at some of these fees in the annual inspections, yes, there's some money there, but everything we just said, somebody's gotta pay all these people to get all this stuff in line. So if we don't come up with a way to get that, it's all gonna be,
Sure.
There was also a clause in here about, they have to agree to surrender the value of the electricity if they're in non-compliance. That was kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
They give, that becomes ours. If,
Yeah.
so you know that it's not likely to happen.
That's section 5.4 on page 7.
Okay.
The end of that paragraph.
Yes, you're exactly right, Jerry. Suspension or termination of financial guarantee.
Are you kidding? Oh, good. They're trying to exterminate.
You got any soap? You got anything on?
Just over here.
All right, Lana, thank you.
Yeah, good for you, Lana. Jeez. Someone texted me, so.
The fire department left this gas on and stuff.
It really was on.
Just put in check. It's a gas stove. Doesn't have a pilot. It's electronic.
Clicker.
Okay.
Well, I have a clicker on mine, I don't have an issue with it, no.
No, me, you should know.
The oven doesn't really have a clicker on mine. That's ridiculous. Fire department stove on.
Yeah, it's strong.
Strong, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure you turned it off.
yeah. I did.
So what you would have to do is talk to this lady about the fact that we do not have a land use ordinance.
Yep,
And that we only have a lot size ordinance that has some land use stuff in there
mm-hmm,
and no comp plan.
yep,
So we're gonna just kinda delete those references in this here, right?
Yep.
The name of the town,
yep.
Yeah, I would let her do that, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yes.
her being,
She'll tell, the
The
attorney will tailor this to fit us.
okay,
The same company that's already got the hours and,
okay, if it's only
And building it once.
$1,000 or less, then that's reasonable.
She thought that would be ample.
Great,
Yeah.
rock and roll, that'd be worth it in a short period of time.
Yep, and
So.
I would think we're better off
Any
to use
other-
the same attorney
Yeah.
that's already proven this.
Familiar.
Correct, and it is to create something or send it to a different attorney, start over.
We can jump attorneys. We don't.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and we haven't actually started with an attorney on this.
No.
No.
So,
no, we haven't sent anything to anybody.
and I think what we should do is, when we have her do this work on this, at the same time, say, all right, do you have a backup moratorium that would fit for us, should this not pass?
Yeah.
Just, so we give it every effort. You know, I don't know what they're all, but if at the end of the day, Sangerville says, no, we don't care, then at least we all tried.
Right, that's happened before.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had the warrant meeting, for Parkman for the solar ordinance last week. They didn't care about a decommissioning plan at all.
I think it's easy not to.
Yeah. I mean, I gave them every warning, you know, and someone mentioned Sangerville had some concerns, and I told them what the concerns were, and
What I wouldn't be surprised happens, particularly as these things move north. Infrastructure with electricity is a big deal. So if you have access to three-phase and those sort of things, I think those are prime targets. But also places with little or no ordinance. So you could see,
townships.
correct,
Yeah.
you could see these things carpeted in these panels, and then the next town over, even though they've got the infrastructure, maybe they have the three-phase. If you've got upfront costs and you've got inspection fees, you're not gonna get them. And honestly, there's no gain in Sangerville for this.
No.
Any land that's covered in panels is a land that can't be a home or a camp or something that ultimately we could tax, or a business.
Right.
So there's no gain for Sangerville. We might as well protect Sangerville. That's kind of my philosophy on it.
Obviously, we have cell towers. You know, now we just talked with the company today, there's gonna be another cell tower, but you can still use the land for,
And we tax them.
yeah.
And one of the biggest taxpayers we have is Central Maine Power, which is kind of ironic because this electricity is gonna run on the infrastructure they're paying us taxes on. So, so I guess, we need to make a motion to, hire.
Yeah, I'd make a motion, you got that?
So, a motion to take this ordinance,
Clean it up.
Clean it up,
run it through a lawyer who created it. basically,
correct,
And change some language, and,
make it fit
Bring it back to
Sangerville.
us.
yep. I second it.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's your motion.
we vote. Actually, just you and I vote, but
There
that's
you go.
okay. And I'll give this to you, you'll have a contact, but you and I will work with them on this. And as soon as we've got documents back, you guys will get them. And then we can schedule a public hearing. Okay?
So we wanna ask them, I mean, they're gonna clean this up, and we're also gonna ask them if they have a simple
Moratorium.
moratorium for us as well.
She liked the idea.
Okay, no, I just making
Yep.
sure that's what we're
Yep.
doing, so we're all. in
So it's
agreement.
all, then all the language should match.
Yep.
So, public hearing?
I think we have to have a public hearing before the ordinance can go on the
You have
warrant,
to
I
have a
believe.
warrant hearing, right?
Yep.
And I have to
Maybe
be
it's just
able-
notice, I don't know.
I have to be able
I
to
don't
post
think
it
you need
7 days prior, same with
Maybe
the
that's,
town warrant.
maybe that's what I'm,
Same as the town warrant, I have to post it 7 days prior. You do have to have a public hearing.
So
she
we
will
have-
know.
So we'll have a special hearing.
Yep.
A public hearing is just,
A
you
special
can do it,
warrant
yeah,
hearing.
you can do a select board meeting. and
We
have a
just,
public
we come in, we recess the meeting, now's the public hearing, 99% of the time, no one is there.
Right.
We say, hearing's over, that's it.
99.99%.
We did a department at the end of the selectmen meeting, and we had maybe 7 or 8 people show up.
Well, that would be a huge turnout for any public hearing we've had.
So what we do is we do the meeting, we do the public hearing at, our meeting's at 4, the hearing is at 4:01, so we start our selectmen's meeting, then we adjourn, we start the hearing.
So
Okay,
we'll advertise it
Yep, it has to be properly advertised.
places around. Now, we can't advertise, can we, at Robinson's and Guilford?
Sure.
We can.
Yeah, I don't see
yeah,
why
they got a
not.
board, I'm sure.
I didn't know if we could advertise outside Saginaw.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like your internet goes everywhere, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Get it on the
That's where you
website.
just get the most.
Yeah.
people, that's what
And you just, there's actually the statute requirements that it be posted, so
Right.
we just got the post office, and, you know, so.
Yeah, well, the crime is what a common meeting place, so
Right.
it says.
Yeah.
And so we don't really have one in town,
No.
so we have to stretch out.
All right,
That it?
anything else?
I did notice in the paper, there's several hearings posted, Garland, East Corinth, Corinna, all around us.
Yep,
Plymouth is working on theirs right now too.
is it, yeah.
Well,
Plymouth,
oh, really?
Well, town meeting's coming, so they're all trying to scramble to get it in.
yeah.
Have we scheduled town meeting yet?
We have a strong tentative date of the 16th.
March,
Yep,
we're gonna hurry up.
Whoa.
That's quick.
Yeah.
yep.
How will you get the hearing before that?
You only need 7 days,
We only need 7-day notice,
so
so.
we can have the hearing on the 11th.
It's all about this turnaround right here. If she's quick, I'd like to think we can have this back by the end of the week.
Oh, yeah.
I have to have the warrant posted by next Thursday
That's gonna be,
for the town, for the annual
That's gonna
town
be
report,
published,
and that's,
right?
right, and that's gonna be there as well.
So we just need that out of the attorney first, that's all.
That's the biggest thing, is that
Yeah,
she's
that's the
able to turn it
holdup right
around.
now. She can turn this around to us, it's no problem.
so the other stuff's all been sent to printer.
How fast?
Not yet, but it's all ready to go.
I'm gonna call her
I'm hoping
tomorrow
to send
morning.
it by Friday.
She sounded very,
We just gotta give her the, you just gotta change.
I can't, how long, I mean,
yeah, I mean, we're not a council.
Right.
We don't really have a land use
No
ordinance.
comprehensive plan.
Right, yep. Yep. In fact, I'll give her your number if she has questions.
Yeah.
but I would think that, I mean, she's already got it, they've already got it in their computer, do we even send it to us? I mean, they're just gonna copy, start typing.
Yeah, I got the impression, she sounded very confident. And if we got to the point where we needed them to come, they show up at your town, and I'm sure it's not free, but, so the. Okay,
Good.
motion to adjourn?
Adjourn second.
All right, it's 5:38, we are adjourned.